Have you ever felt frustrated with chords? If you ever opened a music theory book and found it to be a blur of weird names and strange rules, then you're not alone, and it's not your fault. The problem isn't you, it's the way the subject is often taught. The truth is, chords are incredibly easy once you understand the basic building blocks. Most of the music you love, the entire pop chart, rock songs, ballads, is built from a ridiculously small number of chords. By the end of this video, you won't just be memorizing chords, you will understand the powerful logic behind them and be able to start using them yourself. I'm going to use Lego bricks to show you the secret foundation of the diatonic scale, and I won't stop there. By the end of the video, you will be able to hear and recognize simple chords using only your ears. Sound good? Let's go. Rather than learning hundreds of shapes on a guitar or patterns on a keyboard, the first thing you need to realize is that chords are made up of much simpler building blocks. These building blocks are called intervals. An interval is the distance between two notes. You may have heard of an octave. This is an interval, and it's the space between two notes of the same name. There are many intervals that you can learn in music theory, but for today, you only need to worry about two particular intervals. To make it easy, I'm going to represent these intervals as Lego bricks. The first is this yellow brick. This is a major third. Listen to it here on the piano. It sounds happy. There are exactly 4 semitones between these two. The second interval is the blue brick and is called a minor third. This one sounds moody or sad, which is why I made it a blue brick. There are exactly 3 semitones between the two notes in this interval. These are the only intervals you need for 99% of chords. So let's start using them to make chords. Most songs are made up of 2 types of chord, which you've probably heard of: major chords and minor chords. A major chord is made up of 3 notes. Within these 3 notes, there are 2 intervals. The intervals are a major third and then a minor third stacked on top. It looks like this in Lego terms. So you can now find the notes to any major chord. If someone asked you to play a C major, you would start on C, go up a major third, or 4 semitones to find the next note, which is an E, and then you go up a minor third, which is 3 semitones, to find the next note, which is G. Try this yourself. Starting on the note E flat, what are the other 2 notes in the chord? Pause the video now and put your answers in the comments. Hopefully you wrote E flat, G, and B flat for the E flat major chord. If you wrote A sharp instead of B flat, don't worry, it's basically the same note. You don't normally mix sharps and flats in the keys, so that's why it's a B flat. This interval pattern works the same for all major chords, so you can now find all the major chords for any note using this simple trick. The major chord is your classic happy chord. If you play the chord in isolation like this, you can hear it sounds pretty happy, right? These 3 notes together are called a triad, which might be another music theory term you've heard. Don't worry too much about what things are called. The important things is you understand how things are put together. The minor chord is built different. You start with a minor third to the blue brick, and then you stack a major third on top like this. So to find C minor, you start on C, and then you go up a minor third or 3 semitones to get to an E flat. Then you go up a major third or 4 semitones to get to a G. Again, you can use this approach to find any minor chord you want starting on any note. Try again with E flat. What are the notes in E flat minor? Minor chords are your classic sad or moody chord. Why do major and minor chords sound happy and sad, respectively? It's quite a complex answer, but it's the concept baked into our brains by cultural associations and harmonic principles. Don't worry about it too much. It is what it is. There are 2 other chords which are used much less frequently, which I want to briefly cover. The diminished chord is 2 minor thirds stacked on top of each other. So 2 of these blue bricks. It sounds surprised and definitely wants to be followed by another chord. The augmented chord is 2 major thirds stacked on top of each other, so these 2 yellow bricks. This is a chord that makes me think, ta-da! Don't worry too much about those last 2 chords. Literally, like I said, 99% of chords in modern pop and rock use major and minor chords only. So now you've learned the 4 main types of chord and the building blocks of the intervals. You will mainly use the major and minor chords, and now you can find these chords starting on any note. Play around with these intervals and these chords. Use this information to help you find different chords and experiment. You can't learn music from a book or a video without putting this stuff into practice. And if it helps, take some Lego bricks along with you. The next thing we need to get into is how these chords interact with each other to make a song. Chords don't happen in isolation. They happen as part of a piece of music or a song. if you think of chords as being grouped into a family, I think it really helps. In music theory, this family of chords is called a key signature or a key. So if a song is in the key of C major, this is the family of chords that are in the song. We're going to take a closer look at this family of chords shortly. You can change the key or the family of chords partway through a song, but in the vast majority of popular music, the key doesn't change. So let's ignore that in this video. In every key, there is one note that is more important than all the others. It's called the root note. And in the key of C major, the root note is C, which is probably quite obvious. The family of chords in the C major key follows the notes of the C major scale. These are basically all the white notes on the keyboard starting on C. Remember earlier I told you that the chord of C major was C, E, and G? Well, this looks like this on the keyboard. This triad has a satisfying pattern that you can play. I often use my thumb, third finger, and little finger to play them. Now, by some massive fluke, or perhaps by the genius of the person that first designed the piano, if you move this exact shape up the keyboard, note by note, you actually get to hear the entire family of chords in the key of C major. So these are C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and then you're back to C major again. And that's it. That is the entire set of chords that you could possibly use in a song without changing the key. As I said, the majority of pop songs don't deviate from this family of chords. You may see this written as the diatonic scale. Basically, this is what is meant by that, or diatonic chords. This pattern of major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished is the secret code. It is the exact same pattern in every single key. If you start in G, G is your first chord. If you start in E flat is your first chord. The relationships are always the same. And all you need to do is follow the major scale for that chord. So again, if you find that there's a song in a key you haven't used much before, write these chords out like this and play around with them. You will find that you get much more comfortable with the chords, and it will make playing in that key much easier. So now we need to learn about how these chords relate to each other. And to do that, we need to turn to the Romans. Have you ever seen Roman numerals written around chords? This can be a really confusing thing to see when you're first learning about chords, but when you understand it, it really unlocks them. All that these Roman numerals are a numbering system for chords. And funnily enough, I've showed this to you already. Chord 1 or I is C major. Chord 2 or II is D minor. Chord 3 or III is E minor, and so on. You can think of these as Roman numerals, and the capitals are the major chords and the non-capitals are the minor chords, but I actually just think of these as numbers, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Either way works. I find the numbering system easier. So why does this matter? What's the point of numbering chords? Firstly, each of the chords in this family have a particular flavour or a particular vibe. Chord 1, C major, feels like home. Chord 4, F major, feels like you're somewhere away from home. Chord 5, G major, feels like you're almost home but need to get there. Chord 6, A minor, feels like you're home but something's wrong. These are my descriptions for how these chords make me feel after 30 years of playing them. As you develop your chord skills, you may find very different ways to describe them, but you'll start to hear that in any chord family, each chord has a particular role to play. This is why most songs finish on their root chord, so C major or chord 1. As I described earlier, this feels like home, so at the end of the song, it's a resolution or that you've ended up home. So basically, it matters where the chord is within the family. Secondly, these chord flavors are relative. That means if you start in the key of F sharp major, the chords will have a similar flavor. So chord 4 in the F sharp major key will have the same flavor as chord 4 in the C major key. To me, both sound like you're away from home. So the key takeaway from all of this is that chord families, or keys, are all relative. Once you understand how chords fit into one family, for example C major, you understand how chords fit into all chord families. This means that if you learn to play a song using the number system or the Roman numeral system, then you can quickly change the key of that song. And the number system is crucial if you want to start hearing chords better, but we'll get to that later. Now, to really make the chord family useful, we need to start to understand how each chord interacts with the others. I started to talk about this earlier, but we're going to get into it in much more detail now. Not all chords in the family are equal. We've already discussed the root chord, so C major in the key of C, or chord number 1. This is arguably the most important chord in the whole scale. There are 3 other really important chords, which if you learn will mean you can play most pop songs. These chords are 4, 5, and 6 on the diatonic scale. So in C major, this is C major, F major, G major, and A minor in the chord family of C major. And it's F sharp major, B major, C sharp major, and D sharp minor in the chord family of F sharp major. There is a really popular chord sequence, which is 1, 5, 6, 4, which is found in many pop songs. In fact, there's a really funny video which has millions of views, which plays all the songs that have this chord sequence. It calls it the pop punk progression, and it's by Axis of Awesome. And it literally shows you how prevalent this chord sequence is. Another really popular and beautiful chord sequence is 6, 4, 1, 5. Again, used by many, many songs. So, by knowing these 4 chords and knowing that lots of songwriters use these chord sequences, you can start to feel really confident about using them in songwriting or performing. Why not try and mix it up as well and change the order of these 4 chords? Have fun and experiment. This is how many songwriters start. You can always layer a higher complexity of chords later on if the song demands it. But also, don't be afraid to throw in the other chords from the diatonic family into the mix. Chords 2, 3, and 7, they've all got an interesting and different energy, and you can use these if you want. So, at the beginning of the video, I promised that I would teach you how to hear chords in songs. This is actually easier than you might think, and it builds on everything you've already learned in this video today. To start with, we're going to use the 4 most important chords, 1, 4, 5, and 6 that we learned about. And to be fair, I think I'm pretty good at hearing chords, and I think that these are the only ones that I can actually hear. What you need to do is to get into the energy and the vibe, or the roles as I described earlier, of each of the chords. Let's start with the root chord, chord 1. Sit down and play the chord over and over again. Can you hear that it sounds like home? This is where everything starts and stops within this chord family. Now, play chord 5. This is G major here. The main job of this chord is to point you back to chord 1. So, if you play chord 5, it wants to lead you to chord 1. So, if you play chord 5 and then go into play chord 1, it feels satisfying. This is technically called a cadence, which is basically how one chord moves to another at the end of a section. But don't worry about what things are called, just understand what they're doing. Anyway, back to chord 5. Try and get your head around that feeling. It feels unresolved. It feels like it wants to lead somewhere. Chord 4 sounds like this. This is actually my favourite chord. Please don't tell the others. This chord feels beautiful. You know it isn't home, so it can't be chord 1. And actually, it doesn't feel like it leads anywhere quite as strongly as chord 5 does. You could end the song here and it would feel cool, but you're still not home. Finally, chord 6. This is definitely a minor chord, right? You can hear that. It sounds sadder than the other major chords. It also feels like you're home, that something isn't quite right. So you can see how I think about these chords. Don't worry about which key or which family the chords are in. Start to learn to recognize the vibe and energy of the specific chord and the role they play within a song. Go away and listen to music and try and identify the chords. One of my songs, Easy Life, is actually made up of only 3 of these chords for the majority of the song, certainly the verse and the chorus. Why not use this as a tool to test whether you can hear which of these 3 chords is working? And this is the work you need to do to be able to hear chords. Actively listen to music and try to hear the chords as you listen. Sometimes it helps to have a piano or a guitar nearby to check whether you're right. Lock yourself into the vibe and the energy of the chords and let your ears do the rest. The added bonus of doing this is that you start to develop a stronger feeling about which chord to use and when in your own songwriting. This is one of the best things you can do to improve your ear and improve your musicality. And if you get really good at this, you can actually literally start playing songs that you've heard once, and this really impresses people. So, chords are easy. If you're up for a bit more of a challenge, why not watch this video here where I break down Mariah Carey's smash Christmas hit, All I Want for Christmas, and get into the specifics of the chords in this song. It's way more complicated than the diatonic scale, but I hope you'll find it interesting.